Welcome to the Screen the Screener College Basketball Podcast with your hosts, Mike Randall and Gus Kearns.
Welcome in, listeners, to the Screen the Screener College Basketball Podcast, where we're always talking everything college hoops. You could have been anywhere else on the dial, especially during March, but you chose to be here with us, Mike and Gus, and we appreciate that. We are both back. Mike, she's here. She's finally here. The spring thaw has delivered us the sweetheart that is March. Thank you, everyone, for allowing to keep you company during the finest time of the year. The Northern Hemisphere is experiencing the thaw that breaks the chill, that holds the soil underfoot frozen, and the air has that feel, Mike. It has the Izzo feel, that Sorenstein feel. It has that Sabrina Ionescu feel, that it has that triple-double Ja Morant feel. It has that Jordan Poole feel. It has that Florida Gulf Coast feel, George Mason feel, that busted bracket feel, that Chris Jenkins feel, and that Gus Johnson with onions double order feel. Mike, speaking of feeling, how you feeling? You're right over there.
I don't think you could be anywhere else on the dial. I think you have to be here. You're happy that you're here, and everyone who is not here is making a mistake. That's how I feel.
Listen, superior work on the Hoops podcast earlier this week. It was cool that you got to talk to Peterson a tiny bit. He knows everything. What a productive conversation for the listeners. Thank you from all the listeners out there for putting that out there for everyone. And listeners, if you like what you're listening to, you like what your ear is smiling at, what's in your headphones or in your earbuds or in your speakers, give the podcast a follow at SDS Podcast. Efficiency of keystrokes, of course, on Twitter. Don't forget to give Mike a follow at Randall Rant. Being insightful, intelligent, and entertaining all in one nice, tidy little package. And if you really like what you're listening to on your podcast consumption vehicle of choice, leave a kind review. Kindness is always cool. And we haven't done this in a little while, but our intro music is from Beljar. Talked to Beljar recently. He's working on a new EP of 6 songs, which is pretty exciting. And we want to say thanks to Spreaker for spreading the podcast. Mike, Leap Day results. Let's get it out of the way. I think we have to talk about this game right away. Gonzaga beat St. Mary's 87-76. The two best players on the floor showed out. Petrusev went for 27 and 6. He was a legit force around the basket, while fellow star Jordan Ford worked his tail off for all 28 of his points. The Zags needed the showing after that BYU game. While the Gales battled it, it appeared the game landed in the proper place with a 10-point win for the Zags. Mike, quick takeaway from, our Zags and St. Mary's?
Again, you were on the bus early here with Jordan Ford. Special player. Outstanding player. Give the guy some help, please. Can we get someone else on the damn team for him? I mean, he's single-handedly keeping St. Mary's in this game. Superior player. Going to do great at the next level. Is only going to get bigger. Super quick. Lightning quick release. Love Jordan Ford. Fantastic. It's a nice bounce-back game for Gonzaga. They're one of the top teams in the country, and we see why. There's a tier break, Gus, with between them, Kansas, and the fakers of the world like San Diego State, who we'll get into. Gonzaga loses to BYU on the road. They come back, they hang 86. Okay? That's what great teams do. They don't come back and struggle against a super young Colorado State team at home. You don't do that. Okay? You come back, you drop 86. That's what you do, because that's what Mark Few does when he's not fly fishing.
Well, you're the most efficient team in the nation offensively via Ken Pom. I think that's also what you do. It was just a matter of time until that happened again, right, Mike? I mean, that seems logical.
And I'm pathetic. I'm going to tell you tonight's the reason why I'm pathetic.
Stop it now.
Gonzaga is 25 and 6 to the over this year. That's 80%. Now, for those out there that are new to betting, sports betting getting popular, if you do anything consistently in the sports betting world that's 58%, you're a legend. You're a legend. Gonzaga's 80.7% to the over, 25 and 6, 12 of the last 13 games. Who did not bet the over after knowing and touting that BYU would beat them? And knowing that Gonzaga would absolutely drop a slot machine of points, how do I not bet the over? Dumbest move of the year. Petrusev, I love him, by the way. I'm warming to Petrusev. Good. Love the guy, fundamental. He's got to find his way in a third-team All-American for me. So big bounce back for Gonzaga.
I think if you have to put somebody from the Zags there, I think Petrusev's the guy, no doubt. And listen, how about if I play devil's advocate for you and for the listeners out there on why you wouldn't bet the over for this particular game? Listen, the St. Mary's pace of play is absolutely snail's pace. They're in the 300s as far as tempo-wise goes for Ken Pom adjusted tempo rate. So if if St. Mary's was going to win this game, they were going to win it by playing it at their pace. And unfortunately, Gonzaga said, nah, not so much tonight. We're going to play it at our pace and we're going to put up almost 90. So I get what you're saying there, but but really, I mean, are we going to really bet against the most efficient offensive team in the nation?
Gus, my wife does not move quickly. Okay. She is a slow recognizer, I call her. Okay. When we went to Yellowstone National Park, we were there and we were on a hike. And she walked through a bee's nest, a hornet's nest. All of a sudden, I saw a speed and a gear of my wife's legs that I have not seen. My point is, just because your pace of play is that, when you're in the kennel and Gonzaga's ripping through you, there ain't no way to slow him down. And my wife can take her time, process slow, but when she's got hornets flying all over her head, she's going to get after it a little bit. You go to the kennel. You try to slow them down. Best of luck, folks, because they're already gone.
If you wanted another college basketball analogy of pace of play and the West Coast Conference.
Gonzaga offense, Hornets nest, name of the pod. We already got it 3 minutes in.
Perfect.
Gonzaga, Hornets nest. Not on the show sheet, folks. Okay,
no, not on the show sheet. That's just tremendous. The fact that you're comparing your wife's like pace of life versus.
I haven't seen her move that fast since. Gus says 12 years ago. Haven't seen her move that fast. I'm telling you, we were hurtling. I mean, we were rolling. FloJo ain't got nothing on her when those Hornets come out.
By the way, the biodiversity at Yellowstone is really fantastic. I mean, it's outrageous. Anyway.
Mammoth Hot Springs. See you later.
The Sunflower Showdown Part 2 was a bit more calm, but not minus the drama. Azubuike was hobbled. He was not his normal force, thus transforming, Dotson into like the supreme shot maker who had 25 points while going 8 for 8 from the line. This was going to close and stay. This is going to be close and it was going to stay that way. The Jayhawks get the 62-58 win. I think the question here is pretty simple. Are they the best team in the nation by any sort of tangible margin? Or just the one with the least amount of warts currently? What do you feel about the Jayhawks?
Best team in the country, period. Not close. Masterful job by William Self, who is now rumored, Gus, on social media for the San Antonio job after Popovich leaves. Although I heard Popovich already left. He had Tim Duncan coach the other night. I mean, this is what Pop does. He's so good, he just leave. He can do whatever he wants. He benches players, does not play old, right? I mean, nobody cares. The guy is Teflon. Are they dependent?
Can I just jump in on that for 2 seconds?
Please.
All right. So if you're Pop and you just don't you give it to your head assistant? Where did Duncan come from? I don't think he was even on the staff, right? How did that happen?
Teflon, you thought it was Teflon Don? I mean, it's Teflon Pop. I mean, that's what it is.
Anyway, I'm sorry. Continue. I'm sorry.
Is Kansas dependent on Azubuike? Of course they are. But right. Everyone's dependent on someone. Everyone this year has a guy they can't lose. North Carolina lost Cole Anthony. How'd that go? So everyone is a guy they can't lose. So sure, I don't want to hear, if Azubuike gets in foul trouble. Okay, and if Vernon Carey breaks his arm, Duke's not going to be good. Okay, so right. What is the benefit of telling me that? Who doesn't? Who can't survive that? I mean, everybody has an issue. Kansas 18-11 against the spread, by the way. 8-0 on the road in the Big 12. Let me say that again. 8-0 against the spread on the road in the Big 12. Unbelievable. 18-11 against the spread. The game there that they just won on the road against Kansas State. First against the spread loss on the road this season. That's nuts. They have a 1-game lead over Baylor in the Big 12. They had TCU tonight. Got a little frisky. They survived. They're at Texas Tech on Saturday. Great job by Self. Kansas, best team in the country, period.
Okay, so I'll just jump in on your against the spread there. I think once you get to the end of the conference season and teams are just looking to survive and advance and not drop one and not gather another, wart or another negative on the profile for Selection Sunday, I think a lot of teams are in survival mode. So I think if you're going to look at one thing, I mean, I know we just talked about Gonzaga dropping almost 90. But if you're going to look at one thing, I think these last couple of games, you just want to be a little careful with, because some of these teams are they're legitimately tired. They're legitimately looking at the finish line, and they're legitimately looking at getting reset and hitting the reset button for the conference tournament. All right. So Baylor, speaking of dropping another game, they dropped one to TCU. You just mentioned TCU. TCU obviously playing well. 75-72. The most troubling part for me, Mike, was the 54 points in the second half that was allowed by the Bears. This might be a cumulative effect after playing Kansas, or maybe Baylor is kind of showing that they're not the top 5 team in the nation that we thought they were. Is Baylor still okay in your eyes? Did this game reveal something that's wrong with the Bears, or is this just one of those games where like people are just trying to survive and they're playing a desperate team that's playing for their lives?
Yeah, I want to grab a future on Baylor at this point. They came back to beat Texas Tech in overtime to recover from this. They are limping across the finish line. I think it's a direct result, Gus, of Mark Vital has been limited. Maceo Teague missed a couple games. Tristan Clark's been hurt. Scott Drew's done an amazing job. This loss to TCU hurt badly because they blew the lead and gave up those 54 points in the second half. Desmond Bain went bananas, 23 points, 5-8 from 3.
Yep.
Give them a 2 seed. I think they're fine. I've seen enough of Baylor. They have a style. They have bigs. Jared Butler can make a shot at the end of the game. So, yeah, I think this is just a result of some injuries. I think it's going to sort of hype their price a little bit. We know a good person who is high on Baylor getting a 1 seed and put a bet in. And it was interesting. He came to me and said that before this loss that you could cash out. So, right, if you bet $100 on Baylor early in the year getting a 1 seed, you could win like $700. They were offering an out at 4. Okay? Of course, he decided to let it ride. And of course, it's off the board now. You can't cash out anymore on Baylor. So they're going to say, like, if they run the Big 12, they get a 1 seed, fine, but they'll take their chances. So I think give them a 2 seed in San Diego State's bracket and call it a day. I think Baylor's fine. I'm not worried yet. If they didn't have injuries, I'd be worried. That's a big spot. But you know what? I think it says a lot more. TCU got hot. It is what it is. So it's fine.
If that's the situation, that might be the blow-up bracket that you pick.
Yeah, sure. Yep.
Just throwing that out there. Okay. Speaking of blow-up bracket, San Diego State grabs a big win over Nevada, 83-76. This game showcased the 2 finest players in the conference. Malachi Flynn went off. He went for 36, 5-5, and only 2 turnovers, while Jalen Harris continued to ball out and went for 24-5. Harris is putting up banana numbers for the Wolfpack. He is top 12 in the conference in points, which he's first in, boards, assists, steals, minutes plays, and usage. Might be interesting. If he has himself a postseason, will he stay for his final year? He's playing that well. I know you're going to call me out and say like, oh, Gus, you think he's another NBA-ish guy. But for real, ask all the Battle-Born folks out there. They might agree, Mike. He's a 6'5"-ish skilled wing who can shoot over 37% from 3. He's got a sky-high usage rate, 32.8, which is always a solid tell if a player is going to translate. You remember our conversation with Jordan Sperber. He said that that's one of the keys that they look for players like that. What's your takeaway from San Diego State, Nevada, and just overall if they get the 1 seed, and do you think they can make the run?
Malachi Flynn saved their bacon here, saved the Aztecs. They hit the skids at the worst time. This is different. There's no reason for them to be losing these games or have them close. The home loss to UNLV, quad 3 loss, was brutal. Then they almost lost to a young Colorado State, and that's the issue. Colorado State is young. They're inexperienced. That's a game that if you're legit, you're going to make a Final Four, you're home, you just lost at home, you got to pound them. You got to do a Gonzaga. That's what you have to do. And they didn't do that. They could have easily lost 3 in a row. They escaped against Nevada because of Flynn. Nevada is a dangerous Moutain West team. Really hot from 3. Alford's really solid. We know that. Harris, tremendous. And he surpassed Jazz Johnson and then the Matrix Redux, Lindsey Drew. He surpassed them as the best player in the team. Nevada's plus 1,600, 16-1 to win the Mountain West Conference. That's a great value bet. Before the San Diego State loss, they had won 6 games in a row, 3 at home and 3 on the road. So forget the San Diego State loss. Nevada's coming in scalding hot. I think they're super dangerous. And Jalen Harris is big time. Absolutely. Really has come on and had a great, great season.
We might get to that game a little bit later. Okay, Clemson, we want to welcome you to the bubble. John Gassaway welcomes you as well. What a win, 70-69 over a Florida State team that we discussed a bunch last podcast. Kind of sound a little silly right now. The ending sequence of this game is just what you want, wish, and hope for March. And now they own 3 wins over Florida State, Louisville, and Duke. If you're on the bubble, you're not going to find a team that has 3 finer wins when you're sitting, sliding, and balancing on the bubble. I think that this Clemson team is kind of interesting right now. And do you think if they have a little bit of a run in this ACC tournament that there's something worth discussing tournament-wise?
Yeah, absolutely. Clemson's been a real nice surprise. They beat Duke and kind of got everyone on their scent there, and then they sort of hit the skids after that. But Brad Bromel's done a very nice job with Clemson. They're 15-14. They're 9-10. Now they're going to have to make a run in the ACC tournament. Obviously, get in. They may have to win it, right. But he's done a nice job. I've been very impressed. Look at the second half of the year. After losing 4 to 5 games, Pittsburgh away, not easy. Louisville home, great win by 15. BC, Georgia Tech away, frisky, kept it close, lost. The Florida State one was great. Then they lose away to Virginia Tech. But nice job by Clemson. I'm very impressed with them. And they've come back after losing 4 in a row to start the year in non-conference. Colorado, Minnesota, Florida State, South Carolina hike. They've done okay. And I'm impressed to see what they've done. Amir Sims is a real good player.
Yeah, I think if we're going to talk about Clemson really fast here, I think if they are going to make that little run or advance or get a couple wins in the ACC tournament, you mentioned Amir Sims. He's kind of awesome. He needs some help. If they can get a secondary scorer, there's somebody that's going to complement him, then I think they're a little bit dangerous. But if he's going to have to run the show and do all, everything, he's going to cook bacon and take out the garbage and clean the counters, then they may not be able to do much. Another bubble team, Texas, might have found its way into the bubble conversation as well. And they might continue to do that with further opportunities awaiting in the Big 12. They get a big win over a Texas Tech team that was currently ranked, in-state rival. I mean, there's been discussions, of course, of Beard getting asked to go to Texas if they ask Shaka to leave. So there's a whole bunch of drama with this game particularly. But Texas really finding its way here and fighting its way back to 500 inside the Big 12.
Texas has been one of the absolute shocking stories of the year. What happened here is sometimes coaches get caught up in certain things and don't want to break their mold and don't see the forest through the trees. And I think that's what Shaka had to do. So here's the Big 12. Here's Shaka Smart having trouble in Texas. They lose 2 games in a row, Baylor, Oklahoma. Then they beat Kansas State, Oklahoma State, no big deal. Then they lose 3 in a row, Kansas, West Virginia, LSU. Okay, Shaka's going to get fired. Then they beat DCU, Iowa State. No big deal. Then they lose Kansas, Texas Tech, Baylor, Iowa State. He's done. 14-11, 4-8 in conference. They were probably already looking. From that point, all of a sudden, when they were forced to play without Jericho Sims, it's almost like Shaka said, well, screw it. I'll just go an old guard lineup, which is kind of what he had at VCU to a certain extent. And look at what they've done since then. TCU by 14 at home. Kansas State Octagon of Doom by 11. West Virginia, who's fallen 32.2 feet per second squared, by 10. Texas Tech away. Texas Tech away by 10. Right. Oklahoma, Matt Coleman last night put out on social media, hit the 3, bang. That's 5 wins in a row. That's 19-11. That's 9-8. Oklahoma State at home on Saturday. No one's picking Oklahoma State there. That means they could end with 6 straight wins. Shaka saving his job. Fantastic job by Texas. Amazing. Would never have seen this coming.
I totally agree. I don't think anybody would have predicted this, especially because everybody was kind of signing the contract of who are they going to hire next? Who are they going to bring in at Texas? Maybe they just have the right guy, and maybe he just needed a couple of things. And it seems like, man, who has had worse luck with injuries than Shaka Smart? Nobody has had as many big-time injuries that he's had at Texas. It just seems like every year, leading scorer, down. Leading rebounder, down. Leading minutes getter, down. And then, boom, you mentioned Sims, down. So he's had to solve a ton of problems and had roster limitations that he had to deal around. This little streak that he's on here really shows what type of coach he is. And then we're going to stay in the Big 12. You mentioned West Virginia. This West Virginia team somehow is a similar situation to both Clemson and to Texas. And looking at the bubble after about a month ago, looking like a top 10 team. This slide inside the Big 12, man, it can happen easier than you think, because every game is a grind and the travel is just tough, especially for West Virginia. And if, you want to talk about travel and start time, just ask Maryland's Mark Turgeon about how he blew up about when he's going to get back in his driveway and all that stuff. So Mike, what do you think about West Virginia and their recent slide? Are they in trouble? Are they in danger of missing the tournament? Or are they going to be just a dangerous 10 seed?
No, I think they've done enough to get in. They're 20-10, 8-9. They have Baylor home. I don't know. Who knows what's going to happen with that? He could rest players. They've really struggled. And I'm going to make it a positive. I think this is a credit to Bob Huggins. We didn't think they were going to be good. They start 11-1 in the non-conference. Some decent wins in non-conference. Wichita State, Northern Iowa, Rhode Island, Austin Peay. I mean, some nice wins. Ohio State. But then lately it's been brutal. They've lost 6 of 7 before the Iowa State win, which by the way was a push. They didn't cover. Thank you for that.
Okay.
Like kissing your sister there. So they've lost 6 of 7. Oklahoma, Kansas, Baylor. Then they beat Oak State home. Great job. That was close, by the way, because I did pick that game. TCU, Texas, Oklahoma. They have no guard play. 0 guard play. They're shooting 63.8% from the free throw line and 28% from three-point range. Just not going to cut it. I don't think he has talent in the backcourt. I think he's done a nice job up front with Toshible and with Derek Culver, but they just don't have anything else. I think it's a credit to Bob Huggins. I think they limp in. I think they're like an 11 seed or something like that, and they lose in the first round.
Well, I'll tell you what. Their best offense is a missed shot with those two guys.
Yeah.
And, if they find themselves in an advantageous matchup, then they can, take advantage of those second shot opportunities and maybe out offensive rebound somebody in the first round. I mean, I know it's not an upset if they're like a 10 or 11 seed, but it'll look like an upset with the seed number next to them. Mike, let's talk about a couple of recent games.
Before we do that, let's talk about the fact that Virginia's got to find a way to get to the damn window when Chris Likes goes out at Miami. Okay, I'm just going to throw that out there. Virginia minus 1.5. Someone on this podcast who's talking right now has Virginia minus 1.5. Get to the window, guys. I know, down screen, back screen, slow it down. They don't have their point guard. He's out of the game now. Get to the window, Virginia. I'm sorry.
By the way, Virginia's playing unbelievably well and actually has like some sort of like weirdo outside chance to have a regular season title and an ACC tournament title after like we've absolutely put this team to bed and dismissed them because of their woes offensively. Super impressed with UVA. I'm
gotta get to the window. All right, come on.
Mike, all right, let's go to a couple other things. Speaking of Coach Turge, we talked about how he was complaining about travel and getting to his driveway. Vegas knew a little something about this Maryland-Michigan State game earlier this week, right? Like, what did they know? What did you see? What was your feel on that game? It seemed like the -2 or -1.5, depending on what you had. It seemed like it was like, oh, well, I'm just going to take the home team. But then it turned the other way. So what was your take on the line, and then what was your take on the result?
Like Charlie Brown and Lucy with the football. Every time I'm ready to punt away Michigan State, here we go. I was on the bandwagon, then they get blown out at Purdue, then I get back on the bandwagon, then they lose to Indiana, then they're dead to me, then I get back in after they blow out Northwestern, then they lose to Wisconsin, they lose to Penn State, they lose to Michigan, then I get back on them, then they win at Illinois when DeSomo almost slashed his knee in half, but luckily he's okay.
Terrible. Right.
Then they lose to Maryland. And since then, Nebraska smoked Iowa by 8 at home, Maryland by 12, and then they got down at Happy Valley and they hit the Jets. They're back. I'm back in again. Okay.
I was going to ask, are you back on the sled or no?
We got Ohio State home on Sunday. I don't have the first damn clue who's going to win that game, by the way, because I like Ohio State too. But yeah, they're back in. Cassius Winston is great. Just when I said Xavier Tillman's not good, he goes up and has a massive game. Rocket Watts is hitting threes. I can't figure. I have not done a great job handicapping Michigan State. I think they're back though.
Okay, can I just bring up something about you mentioned Xavier Tillman. Do you think that he was completely annoyed about being left off of the Defensive Player of the Year list? Because I think he was like kind of solely responsible for holding Lamar Stevens for like a 3 for 17 night when they played Penn State. I think he like put it in his craw and was like, I'm so annoyed by this. I'm going to hold the player that could be, besides Cassius Winston and Luka Garza, could be like one of the top players inside the conference to his worst shooting night of the season. I feel like he was just kind of annoyed.
Yeah, basically. I think you're right. And listen, Anthony Cowan is a special player. Jalen Smith gets a double-double by the time this podcast is over. But Mark Turgeon, you got to pipe down, by the way, also. You are on the hottest of hot seats. You are Satan, Mark Turgeon, is what you are, because it's hot all the time. You get a big win at Minnesota. Let's not complain about the travel, big guy. Once we keep it quiet and try to go negotiate an extension. That would be my suggestion here, okay? So, everything going on here.
Go give Marcel a pat on the back and let's move on.
Right.
Let's go.
Let's have self-awareness, Mark Turgeon, okay? Please.
All right, let's go Seton Hall, one of those teams that we should have discussed when we asked, last podcast of who can make a Final Four. They get a big win at Marquette. Two of the best players in the nation with, Powell and Howard going head-to-head here. And then, Seton Hall and Villanova matching up this week kind of as we're podcasting. Mike, what do you take away from the Seton Hall win on the road? Do you feel like they're finally whole, everybody healthy as a team? And do you feel like this is a team that maybe some people might pencil into the Final Four?
Absolutely. They have all the prerequisite pieces. They play defense. Miles Powell, I'm a little worried about the tendonitis of Miles Powell with the knee because he's been a little less flammable lately, and they need full flammability to make a run. But they're going to lose tonight to Nova, 76-70 at home rather to Nova. So it's one of those teams. I like Seton Hall. They've played well. They got to be healthy. The only thing I'm concerned about is the health right now. That's it. But they have all the prerequisite pieces. They could make a run.
I think if they're healthy, I think I'm right with you. I think you have to look at them in what particular bracket they are, matchups. They do have all the pieces that make sense. They have a point guard that you trust, big man inside that can deter at the rim. They got Powell, who's a shot maker as long as he's healthy, and they have interesting players on the wing. All right, Mike, a couple of the results here. We were texting earlier that this is the biggest game for Rutgers since Eddie Jordan was a player for Rutgers, and they get a big win over Maryland. Anything you take away from the Rutgers win over Maryland at the rack?
Yeah, everything is a baseline comparison in life. How do you know something's good? Because you've tasted something bad. I don't want to hear any more about Rutgers hasn't won on the road. I don't care. The Rutgers program has been the laughingstock for a long, long time here. Peichel got an extension, came from Stony Brook. Wonderful job by him. You wouldn't even recognize him. You saw him in the middle of the street, but those are the guys we love here on the podcast. I understand they haven't had great wins away. In fact, they won at Nebraska, and that's pretty much it, okay, for a real road win.
Pretty much.
But they have enough big wins that they're making it. You beat Maryland. They beat Illinois. They beat Purdue. Ask Iowa about that. They beat Minnesota. They beat Indiana. Not easy. Penn State. They've won enough. And they beat Seton Hall. Well, Miles Powell, had a concussion. I don't care. They won the game. They're going to make it. They should make it. I don't care if they go in the playing game. 19-11, 10-9. They're on the road to Purdue. They're going to lose that. We know. So I'm fine with it. Get one win in the Big Ten tournament. Get 20 wins and good. They've had enough big wins. Defense is legit, by the way. Number 10 in the country. Adjusted defensive efficiency, as per KenPom, the Rutgers Scarlet Knights.
Very impressed with them. I agree. They get that one win in the Big 12 tournament, the Big 10 tournament. I think they're in as well. Anything you take away from Tennessee getting an interesting win over Kentucky? We're just going to celebrate Fulkerson here and just say he's a really interesting player. And are we worried about Kentucky there? What did you take away from that one?
Yeah, I got lit up because, of course, I put all the Kentucky propaganda out how they should be a 1 seed. I mean, literally, I was getting hammered. I don't block people. I don't block unless you come at me personally, folks. So I'm a big boy. I can take it. But, yeah, just a bizarre game, Gus, because the way it happened. They're up 11 at the half. I'm pounding second half lines like a typewriter. Yes. Got destroyed last night. Terrible night for me. But I was surprised the way it went down. I'm still fine with Kentucky. They have some bizarre thing where their 3-point shooting at home is 22%. On the road, it's 46%. I don't know. Overall, they're shooting well. 36% in the conference from 3. But at home, they're not shooting well. Whatever. It's fine. Tennessee, Rick Barnes did a nice job. Josiah James doing a nice job. He's back. Fulkerson, he's good. His mom says he's good. No problem. It was a nice win for Tennessee. Bizarre loss for Kentucky. I'm still hot on them. Goodbye 1 seed. It's either going to be a 3, or if they win the SEC tournament, they'll be a 2. That's it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm very high on them as well. I'm not getting off of their train for sure. I still like the guards. And by the way, you mentioned the shooting numbers right there. Okay, so what happens when they play on a neutral court? Guess what they're going to do? They're going to shoot the ball really well, and they're going to shoot the ball really well from the line. That's totally fine. Yeah, I'm
good. Just it's the way it happened. If Tennessee came out and was up 5 in the first half, you'd be like, all right, Tennessee had 9. It's the fact that Kentucky was up 17 and Tennessee came back. That's what makes me a little unsettled, but it happens. Whatever.
Yeah, and you're going to run into a game where somebody goes bananas, like Fulkerson went bananas, and he's had an unbelievable game. So kudos to him. He was really impressive. I hope he comes back next year and like actually balls out and shows out. Mike, are we okay with how high Cassius Stanley can hop? That alley-oop was kind of gravity-free in Duke's win over NC State. Did we get a peek at that?
He's a future NBA slam dunk contest winner. 100%.
That was insane, man.
He stops his ascent. Cassius Stanley stops his ascent. He's jumping. When he catches the ball, he stops. He can keep going. We have yet to see full extension on Cassius Stanley dunks.
His head was above the rim. It was like ridiculous.
And he has the key to being a great dunker, Gus. He has the acceleration with the dunk itself. Like when he catches the ball, it's super quick to the hoop. It's the acceleration of the hand. It's a beautiful thing. I'm giving you a lot of details because I've never dunked. Gus has dunked. I've seen him do it live. I have not dunked. Beautiful thing. It's the acceleration. The height is not enough. It's the force and acceleration of his arm going to the basket. Unbelievable.
That was really, I don't even care about the game. That dunk was insane. Okay, listeners, we got a little treat for you here. We're just going to go simple March Madness. We have found the most beautiful month that we could hope for, and we are living in it and we are existing in it, and we thank you for letting us keep you company during the best month of the year, the best time of the year. We're going to go a little March Madness. All we're going to do is going to run through all the tournaments that you're going to get your eyes on and your ears on the rest of this week and this weekend, and we're going to give you our 2 cents on it, and we hope that it helps you keep you company along the way. Mike, are you ready to give a little March Madness rundown for some of these awesome conference tournaments that we're going to pay attention to?
Let's roll.
Okay. ASun, Liberty, Caleb Homesley seem to be one of those teams in March that provide the trendy, quasi-familiar upset name next to 11, the 12, or the 13 seed. Scotty James is another name to follow here. They are just a lovely mid-major team, and James is a lovely mid-major, undersized big who's hung around for 4 years, knows the playbook better than you know anything, better than you know like where your toothbrush is right now in your bathroom. Now, sure, the Ospreys are a threat here, but I'm going to tell you the Flames are the team that might actually scare a high major team due to their pace of play, team characteristic, and the 2 studs they own, Homesley and James. Mike, anything to take away from the ASun for the listeners?
Yeah, I think it's a 2-horse race. I went on SiriusXM with Friedman over at Action Network, and I talked about this the other day. It's probably one of your clearer 2-horse races. Mm-hmm. The players that we've talked about that we like in the conference, I think are legit. I would love to see the Stetson Hatters make a run. Stetson, I saw beat South Carolina at South Carolina, which, by the way, and you know I'm rooting for South Carolina to make it. They don't make it because you can't lose at home to BU, and you certainly can't lose at home at Stetson. That was a bye game, by the way. But Rob Perry, freshman, lights out for them. 15 points, 5 rebounds, and assists, 43% from three-point range. They have the non-conference where they actually aren't afraid of anyone, so it's certainly worth talking about there. But for my money, for the ASun, we're looking at Liberty. We're looking at North Florida. Those are the teams that can really, really do some damage.
Stetson, Hatters, love it. Big South, this tournament goes a little haywire, Mike. The number 1 seed has only earned the auto bid 2 times the past 10 years. So, Radford and Carlik Jones, as much as we love them, should not feel too comfy with the number 1 next to their name, especially after they dropped their last game to the current number 3 seed, Gardner Webb, on Leap Day. What Radford has working for it here in the Big South is, as the number 1 seed, they can host all 3 games at home for the auto bid. And if DJ Burns is ready to roll, then Pat Kelsey and Winthrop are also going to be an issue because he was sat down for a game late in the season by Coach Kelsey for disciplinary reasons. So if he's all set, then I think you have to look at Winthrop as an option here too. Mike, Big South, are we just going Radford and Carlik Jones, or are we going someplace else?
Gus, it's funny you say that. You got to watch out for Longwood, okay?
Yes!
Give me a second. How do you not like a team with Shabuti Phillips? I think you have to watch out for them. Let me build my case here. The argument is this. I understand that when you're looking at the top of the Big South, that Radford last year got upset at home, Gardner Webb, the whole thing. Now, Winthrop has been hot for most of the year, so people have really been in on Winthrop, but they have slowed down lately. They just haven't had the same sort of dominance that they had earlier in the year. So it's close for me. Carlik Jones, you want to see him get in. They should have got in last year. I understand that. Gardner-Webb, you can make an argument that they could have been the sleeper. The problem is Jose Perez, preseason player of the year, is out for them. He's out for the rest of the year. They're still 6-2 without him, and they won on the road at Radford, so that's worth talking about.
Yes,
but
definitely.
My best sleeper is Longwood. You're getting 150-1. They won 4 in a row, 5 of the last 6. They play defense. They were second against the Big South competition in adjusted defensive efficiency, 2-point percentage and steal percentage. You got Shabuti, and they got 6 players, Gus, that have attempted over 115 three-pointers. So, yes, I think it's conservative, but if you're looking for a long shot and you're looking for a sleeper, I want the Longwood Lancers.
Listen, Ellie Lieberman would be so happy about this because she and I actually discussed Shabuti Phillips on the podcast when she came on as a guest. So a shout out to Ellie. That's fantastic. All right, let's head over to the Horizon. That's amazing, Mike. You're fantastic. The Horizon. Are we feeling the love here, Mike? You feeling London love and Wright State as they sit as the number 1 seed? Love sits with 11 double-doubles this season. He's been unbelievable. The Norse lurk as the number 2 seed and the defending conference tournament champions. Mike, who do you favor here in the Horizon? I kind of like, I'll just say it straight out. I like Coach Nagy and I like Love to advance here, but do you have a Longwood type pick here, or are you feeling something else in the Horizon?
Yeah, here's the thing. So Wright State has smacked around Northern Kentucky, although that second game was actually fairly close. Loud and Love, the whole thing, fired up about it. The issue is that Northern Kentucky, they lost Dantes Walton for a little bit. They lost Jalen Tate. When they lost Jalen Tate, Dantes Walton went nuts. So Northern Kentucky is finally fully loaded. So I think you have to pay attention, and they can certainly make a run. If you're looking for a late round sleeper, the team that I absolutely love is Illinois Chicago. I saw Illinois Chicago take Northern Kentucky out to the woodshed at Northern Kentucky and blast them. They have the best defense statistically here in the Horizon, and they shoot the three-pointer the best. They smoked IUPUI, which, folks, means this in the first round. That line opened at Illinois Chicago minus 9.5. I was absolutely sure. It was my best bet on Action Network. Everyone's hammering IUPUI. Line is dropping, minus 7.5. People tweet me, Mike, why is it dropping? I don't care why it's dropping because I'm a man of convictions. When you study this stuff like Gus and I do, and like a lot of our listeners do, stick with it. You know why it was dropping? It was 25-4, okay? So whatever was dropping, my bankroll wasn't dropping, okay? So I like Illinois Chicago. They took care of business at IUPUI. Now they're going to play Green Bay, down screen, back screen, fine, no problem. I think they can win there. Wright State does not want to see them whatsoever in the semifinals. So if you ask me who's going to win, do I think Wright State's going to win? No. I think either Northern Kentucky, hard to beat a team 3 times in one season, okay, is going to get their revenge because Walton and Tate are finally healthy, or Illinois Chicago is going to say, pull, lock you down. One of those 2 teams is who I like.
Listen, the Illinois-Chicago call is an unbelievable call because I kind of was thinking of them, but I was not scared to bring them up, but I was just worried. I was like, okay, we have too much to talk about, and you brought them up. That's beautiful.
Well, what's wrong? Mike, the line slot. I don't care about the line. I don't care. You know what I kept doing? Remember trading places with Dan Aykroyd and Murphy? Buy, keep dropping it, buy. Thank you. In-game buy. Okay, 25-4. Put it away.
Patriot.
That's what we call, Gus, the comfortable cover.
Okay. That's a very comfortable cover. Speaking of comfortable cover, I'm sitting with my Seahawk blanket. It's a very comfortable cover as well. The Patriot League has 3 great guards, and I think we have to pay attention if it's the passing of the torch from Bucknell to Colgate here in the Patriot League. Let's talk about these 3 great guards. Let's start with Colgate. Jordan Burns from Colgate has been wonderful. He's gone for 40 points this season. He's coming off an 11-11 a game and a win over Army. And speaking of Army, we got Tommy Funk. They're the number 4 seed. He's been just a little bit better than Burns. Funk is averaging 17 points, 4.5 rebounds, almost 7 assists a game on 45% from 3. And then you got to throw in Saeed Nelson from American, who we really liked, this whole season and last season. They're the number 2 seed. This league is just jammed up with great guard play. Mike, is it just going to be we expected the Bison and Bucknell to make it from the Patriot League, and now we can just kind of expect Colgate, or is there something else afoot here?
Colgate 23-8, 14-4, school record 14 wins in the Patriot League. Nice job by them. They've dominated. First in offensive efficiency, first in defensive efficiency, 47th best three-point shooting team in the country, pretty much 37% tops in the league. They make their free throws at 75%. I don't know what sort of preview you want of a team, but that would be a team I'd like to coach. Most wins in the Patriot League, the school record. Number one offense and defensive efficiency. Shoot the three and make our free throws. Next. Here's the thing. I'll go through it quickly. Not a BU guy. I know we rebound. We're fired up. We won in South Carolina. Not buying it. Don't make their free throws. Not going with it. Now listen. American tied with BU, but they got the 2 seed. Saeed Nelson is the real deal. He had 30 against Lafayette in their 20-point win last Wednesday, 18-5-5. He split with BU. They do defend the 3 well. They hold opponents to 29.3% from beyond the arc. That would be huge against Lafayette. Other problem with BU that I mentioned, like I said, 319th from the free throw line, 65.5%.
Sure.
I would have said Lafayette, okay? Would have been nice if they beat Army because they actually beat Colgate. They're the best cover team in the conference at 17-10-1. They clamped down on the threes. Fran O'Hanlon's been there for 24 years, 3-time Patriot League Coach of the Year.
Right.
But they lost Justin Jaworski, the leading scorer. They never had Alex Peachy, who got hurt preseason. They've gone 3-2. I just don't think they had the horses. So to me, it is Colgate, Gus.
Yeah.
I would have gone for Loyola Maryland. If Kostecka was healthy, I would have went for Loyola Maryland, because they have really come on and they've dominated since they got that kid who came over from Spain. I think it was Spain, and he won the Euro Championship as well, Aldama. He's been fantastic. 2 big guys inside, and when he arrived, they pretty much started dominating. They had Salty Aldama, 6'11 freshman, has played great with Kostecka. The problem is once Kostecka got hurt, they struggled, lost away Navy, lost Lehigh, and of course they lost Lehigh in the tournament back-to-back. Right. That would have been my sleeper pick if Kostecka was there. He's not. I think it's Colgate. How you gonna? I haven't seen a summary or a preview of a team that solid. So I'm going to go with Colgate.
I'm totally with you. I think it's a definite passing of the torch here, and I think you bring up a great point with Loyola. If you're going to play with those 2 bigs, especially in a smaller conference like that, then that improves your efficiency tremendously and can counteract any sort of 3-point, arsenal that a smaller team that might throw at you, or some sort of like defensive team or a pace of play that might like really put their characteristic or really their imprint on the game. If you're going to have 2 bigs that are going to like make layups all the time, then that makes sense too. So I'm with you. I kind of like where your head was at there, because if we just go like big picture, I mean, that's what North Carolina's Gonzaga. When we get to Wisconsin, that's kind of what they're doing right now. So that makes sense. William and Mary, that's what they have going right now as well, so with these 2 bigs. So that's not totally crazy. So if you're going to look at something, listeners, Mike just gave you kind of a little nugget if you want to pay attention to something there. Let's go out to the Mountain West. We talked a little bit about San Diego State and Nevada in their matchup. And just last season, we witnessed an unbelievably talented Nevada team that were on the whole entire season, and they were knocked off in the conference tournament, and then San Diego State was able to grab the auto invite. Will the roles be reversed here this season? Will the Wolfpack, who holds the 3 seed, kind of sneak in and steal that auto bid, and San Diego State loses, even though they only own 1 lone loss? We talked a little about Jalen Harris and Malachi Flynn. They're the 2 best players in the conference. The Aztecs would love to hold on to that number 1 seed with a tourney win here, right, Mike? But is that a possibility? Do you think they're vulnerable?
ABSD, anybody but San Diego. I can't take San Diego State here. The odds are minus 200, enough. This team is leaking. I've told you that with 3 bad performances in a row. Yep. Not a Utah State guy either. Just haven't seen him get across the line. Cade has never been right the whole year. I liked UNLV. I liked them to beat San Diego State at home. They didn't. They beat them on the road, so that's the Alonzo Mourning gift that I put out. Fine. Love Nevada. They have great odds. You want to get frisky with Derek Alston and Boise State? I have no problem with that. Colorado State's too young. New Mexico, give me a break. Air Force did cover today because every team that's underdog by 5 or 5.5 points always covers lately, at least at an 80% rate. That's fine. So I'm taking either UNLV or Nevada. You want to get frisky with Boise, you could talk me into it. But UNLV's home. They're not afraid of San Diego State. You just got to stop Malachi Flynn. That's it.
I'm with you, and I think Boise wouldn't be a terrible play there because they might have – we talked about Malachi Flynn and Jalen Harris. They might have the 3rd best player or maybe the most NBA-ready player in Alston. So if you're going to take a peek at someplace there, and they have the Jessup hanging around as well, And that might be the team if you're going to take a look at like an off the radar team that's going to maybe show out and like surprise and find their way into the finals and steal that auto bid. And plus, they can beat anybody anytime, anywhere by any amount. I mean, you remember that comeback? They were down 17 with 3 minutes to go and they came back and won that game. Mike, let's go to the Northeastern Conference. So we need to start with Merrimack here, right, Mike? The best team in the conference isn't even playing in
Virginia gets to the window.
They got there.
-1.5, they win by 2. Attaboy.
That's so Virginia.
46-44, the over-under. Why did I not take the under? I'm sorry, guys. I apologize.
Again,
I'm having a big night here. I was into it. I'm sorry.
All right, so you're worried about taking Gonzaga in the over. Why are we just not betting Virginia and the under every time? Like, why are we not doing that? What's the percentage there? That's got to be an unreal percentage.
They've actually been terrible lately. They've
really?
hit the over a ton of times. Yeah, but of course, they play Duke. I take the over because both Duke and them are hitting the over, and I mean, all of a sudden we're down screening, back screening forever. But yeah, that was a nice one. 1.5.
They got to the window. Okay,
and the line closed at 2.5. Talk about getting the early line. The first line is often the best line, Gus. That's how it works.
You know what they say about those birds and the early birds and the worms and all that stuff. That makes sense.
I got to get a life. I'm screaming at Virginia 2-point win at Miami. What am I doing?
By the way,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The American robin really is the only early bird that gets the worm because they will hop around on open fields to get those worms. And like really, there's not many other birds that like specifically, prey on worms besides the American robin, especially in springtime. So really, it should just be the American robin gets the worm. It shouldn't be like the early bird because they're really the only bird that does. So
can we go back to science class in 7th grade when the teacher we had said like you weren't good at science or something like that? Let's just tell him. He's actually passed away. God rest his soul. But Can we go back to 7th grade science so you could just give him that? I mean, when we're sitting across from you and like you're talking to me because I don't make friends and you feel bad for me and he's like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about in science? Really? Did you just hear what we're talking about? Robin Redbreast? I don't even know what we said.
I'm just glad we're still talking now. How about that?
To the window.
Virginia. Northeastern Conference. We got to start with Merrimack. They're the best team in the conference, and they're not even playing in the conference tournament due to the transition to Division I. And then you see, so that's a thing. We know lots of folks have made lots of money, lots of cash thanks to Merrimack this season. So who is playing in this conference tournament? We have Robert Morris. They hold the number 1 seed. They're worth paying attention to. So is the number 2 seed. The number 2 seed has won the NEC thing 4 times in the past 10 years. Thank you, Bob Patrone, on Twitter for that little nugget of knowledge. And who sits at the number 2? Our old friends, the Red Flash, led by Uber Everything Jersey tough guard Keith Braxton, St. Francis of Pennsylvania. Braxton averages 17 points a game, 7.5 rebounds, and almost 4 assists a game. Seniors like Braxton win March games, especially in the NEC. Mike, who are we liking in the Northeast Conference?
Yeah, tough to go against St. Francis, who are one of the best cover teams in all of college basketball this year. They have been. Mm-hmm. You want a frisky team? I'll take Sacred Heart. I've watched them a bunch of times. I think Coach does a good job. They play tough at Merrimack there. Anasiki has been great for Sacred Heart, the junior inside. He's a double-double machine. So, yeah, I think it's St. Francis. Merrimack's been tremendous. I mean, Joe Gallo's Coach of the Year. Lock it up. I mean, why they can't be in the tournament, I have no idea. It's one of the dumbest rules I've ever seen. The trial period here with the NCAA. Okay, that's great.
Obviously, they passed the trial, okay?
Right. They were clearly. They're like tops in the country in steals. I mean, like the old NBA Jam when you hit the A button. Okay, that's what they do. But, yeah, if you want me to go deep, I'll go Sacred Heart. I think they do a nice job. They compete well. But I think it's St. Francis. Yeah.
All right, Mike, let's hit the Ohio Valley very quickly. We talked about Terry Taylor. He's a player of the conference, and you said rightly so. Do you want to go a little bit Ohio Valley here? It seems like you might have a little bit better feel on this than I might.
I mean, folks, if you remember the first podcast of it we've ever did, the fact that statement was just said is really disturbing. I'm sorry, Gus. I wasn't paying attention because I am a little bit locked into Eastern Illinois here, Jacksonville State. We got Eastern Illinois minus 2.5, and we got the under. The under is looking quite good, by the way. Okay, neutral court unders. But anyway, I digress.
Okay.
Belmont, Murray State. The issue, of course, Eastern Illinois had that crazy comeback against Murray State where they were down like 27, right? Okay.
Right, 27 with about 12 to play and came all the way back and won on the buzzer beater.
Right. They've been on fire since then. They're shooting the three well. They're playing well. I like this the Eastern Illinois team. I think they're solid. No one in the bottom of the bracket has any interest in them whatsoever. Austin Peay, scary Terry. Terry Taylor is fantastic. He's outstanding.
The best.
Wonderful player. That's the player I'm going with. I'm not buying Belmont. You're going to lose Rick Byrd. You're going to win. I don't know about that. Murray State, no John Morant. So, yeah, I don't know. Why not Eastern Illinois, Gus? Right after they win tonight against Jacksonville State. Why not? That'll be my pick here.
Okay. I think that's what we're looking for. I think that's what the listeners are looking for. Just a little something off the radar. We're not going to give
Eastern Illinois, get to the window.
Yay. Eastern Illinois, please meet at the window immediately. Let's go. All right,
boy, Dayton is pounding Rhode Island. I should have wrote that one up for Action Network. I wrote up Tulsa.
Right. Why didn't you do that? That was an automatic, man.
I did. It was only 4, and I was going to do it because you're not beating Dayton. You're not beating Dayton if you can't shoot threes. Okay, it's just not happening. Like, what was the schematic there? I wrote up the Tulsa game because I'm the only person who likes Tulsa. Tulsa continues to be getting points from Vegas. No one likes Tulsa. They're tied with Houston. They got 2 points today at Temple. Thank you very much. It was an easy win. And the other one I wrote up was the aforementioned Eastern Illinois game. So I should have wrote up Dayton. They're up 24 with 3 minutes left at URI. Jesus, they're going to be a 1 seed. I think they're going to be higher than San Diego State. Who knows? Good.
Okay, can we just go there for a second? Like they can win the whole thing, right?
Absolutely, 100%. Absolutely.
Like,
and I was critical of the coach, and I was wrong. They're good. They're good.
Right.
Obi Toppin never gets in foul trouble. He never gets in foul trouble. Every game I'm like, oh, who's got fouls? Crutcher's got 3, Toppin has 0. I mean, the guy is aggressive. He's a lottery. He's never in foul trouble.
How okay, so I'll go there for 2 seconds. Okay, 2 things. Number 1, let's just go like you mentioned. He's a lottery pick. The thing that like scares away teams like NBA teams from him being a lottery pick is his age. Guess what also plays into him not getting into foul trouble? His age, his experience, his guile. That's not a thing that's gonna go away.
Guile was not a good Street Fighter character. I rarely used Guile when I played. Sorry. Just wasn't exciting. No. Ryu, E Honda, and Bison. No one's picking Guile. Whenever you got Guile on the random select, when I was playing with our buddy Matt, I just rolled my eyes. Nobody wants Guile. He just wasn't that good. Sorry.
So
I'll take Chun-Li, no problem. It's Guile. What
are we doing here? That's hilarious. Street Fighter.
Blanca, you hit the button. Blanca, electrify. Guile.
Did you do the Street Fighter with the Marvel characters as well?
Oh, I wish. But my in college it was the Street Fighter edition. You come back, we go out, we have a great night, trying to relax a little bit. You just let the computer pick 10 random people because that is really the thing. Anyone can take Blanca and do this. Okay, for 20 seconds. But you have to know all the guys, okay? But whenever you got Guile, you just almost wanted to lose.
All right, back to Obi. The other part about Obi is his athletic gifts as, coming in as like a smaller player and then having this growth spurt. He does have guard skills, so it's not like he can't guard. He can guard. He has guarded in the past. And the other thing too, like you have to acknowledge that is a definite benefactor of his unbelievable athletic gifts, which I think in some weird way are getting undersold. Like I think that he's not getting, even though he's when's the last person besides Zion that's done a windmill duck on the baseline, like in game? Like somehow his athletic gifts are a little bit undersold. And as freaky as we thought Zion was athletically, I'm not saying that Obi is at that particular level because not many people are, but I think we need to have him like, at least in the discussion or the same like discussion group, maybe the same book club, if you will, as far as athletically as Zion is. He's really gifted, and I think, again, we talked about this before on the podcast, he's Brandon Clark, but maybe a little bit more refined. Like that's
everything. That I have to cut up what you just said, that little soliloquy, and put that on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. I have to do it because it was everything you said. The answer is yes. Preach. Whatever you just said was 100% I support. You should run for president after you just said that. Everything you just said was brilliant basketball knowledge, what you just said.
Thank you. I think you're slightly biased. We hope the listeners feel the same way. Okay, let's get let's get a little bit to the Valley, right, Mike? This is one of those like precious tournaments that we always have an eye on in March. We love the Loyola Chicago run to the Final Four. I mean, that's the thing that we always root for in March. The Evansville win at Kentucky is Kentucky's thorn. the entire season. Northern Iowa owns its own slice of March historic greatness with the win over Kansas and Farugnish from deep. To ignore this conference is folly, and Northern Iowa is at it again with Coach Jacobson. AJ Green can shoot it with anybody in the nation. He shoots it over 40% from three, over 90% from the line, and he's posting almost 20 points per game. They defend. They play a scary, slower, Liberty, UVA, St. Mary's type of pace. And then the Valley is good for a reason, Mike. Mike, better. Okay, I have questions for you. Are you ready? I'm just going to give you a couple. You just tell me what you think. Better Ken Pom numbers. Who has a better Ken Pom number? Northern Iowa or LSU?
I'm not looking. I'll say Northern Iowa.
Yes. Northern Iowa or UVA?
Oof. Really? Northern Iowa?
Yeah.
Oh.
Northern Iowa or the Sam Merrill-led Utah State team?
So Pillow, Utah State. So Northern Iowa, yes.
Right. Northern Iowa or the Pac-12 leading UCLA Bruins?
Well, lately, if you took the last 10 games, it's got to be UCLA. Right?
Well, I brought that up for kicks. And then Northern Iowa or East Tennessee State?
It's got to be Northern Iowa except for rebounding. East Tennessee.
Right.
Can we get East Tennessee State versus Houston?
Please. That'd be
have a rebounding cam, please. Yes.
Totally amazing. All right, so that's where I'm at with that. I think Northern Iowa is the class of this conference this particular season, and I think when they see whoever sees them on the other side of the bracket as an 11 seed or a 10 seed, they're going to just be like, oh man, we got to play this team. We got to coach against this guy. We got to try to guard AJ Green. It's going to be an issue. I'll tell you that right now. Mike, you got anything else besides Northern Iowa here?
Freeman Liberty's back from my favorite player in this conference from Mono. He's actually back here, which is great. Valpo's second half line, take that to the bank. Every game he plays, like they end up getting down big, and then Freeman Liberty is like 30 points. So take that to the bank. Cameron Krutwig's been fantastic. Obviously, a little bit under the radar after the big run, but he's been so resourceful, so fundamentally sound inside. Just a great job there for inside there for Loyola Chicago. So those two players that jump out for me.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think if you're going to pay attention in this conference, maybe a player gets on a run and then that player actually carries that team to the finals, and then, anything can happen in the finals. So Freeman and Krutwig are two of those players that can definitely, manufacture that for their particular teams. And let's go SoCon. I kind of wish we had our buddy Brian Mull back to break this down for the listeners again, because Brian was like so locked in preseason on the SoCon. We're going to dig into do our finest mulligan here for about 90 seconds on the SoCon. And don't forget to give Brian a follow over at BG Mull for all of your SoCon information during the tournament, because he's going to be all over that stuff. Mercer owns that win over Duke. Wofford was like absolutely amazing last season, and plus like Asheville and North Carolina, they have some of the finest craft beer in the nation being brewed and produced over there. Whoever busts out of this thing is going to be ultra dangerous in the big dance. No joke. In a year of uncertainty, please be certain that a SoCon team could make a Sweet 16 or maybe even an Elite 8 run, no doubt. Mike, we know that East Tennessee State is legit, and we talked about them a little bit before. They're tough as nails. Who else should the listeners give attention to here besides East Tennessee State and Coach Forbes? What do you got?
Yeah, East Tennessee State beat UNCG twice. This is a bizarre league because East Tennessee State, UNCG, both good, cannot make free throws. I brought this up in the Action Network pod. UNC Greensboro, right? Wes Miller, fantastic coach. Last 6 years from the free throw line as a team, 65%, 64%, 68%, 64%, 63%, 62%. So I don't know what's going on at UNCG, but they just can't make free throws, and they can't beat East Tennessee State, but they can do everything else. This is going to be a great tournament. Furman can shoot the three. They get frisky. They've made the run in the past. Bob Ritchie, great job. Yep. So up top there, all three of those are really, really good teams, and I think any of them can be totally solid. So I'm looking at any of the top three, the big three there, whether it's East Tennessee State, Furman, UNCG, not going anywhere else. Wofford, of course, taking a step back. They've been tough at home, but that's pretty much it. You know my love for the Citadel, how they could cover a lot of games, but outside of that, it's one of the top three.
I love that you brought the Citadel. I knew you were going to bring up.
They covered like crazy, man.
I love that.
0-18.
All right, and of course, the West Coast Conference gets started this weekend. Mike, is there anybody else that we really should pay attention to that's going to be dangerous to win this thing besides BYU, St. Mary's, or the Zags? And out of those three teams, is there one that you favor? Do you think there's going to be like some sort of craziness? Like, is there going to be like a Pepperdine run here? Is there going to be Pacific run? Like, is there something that's going to be nutty that happens here?
The answer is no.
Right.
And by the way, I have a St. Mary's future at the beginning of the year because I'm an idiot. But no, we want Gonzaga BYU. We need Gonzaga BYU. Both of those teams are tremendously dangerous. If Gonzaga made the Final Four, nobody even blinks an eye. Of course, if they've been there before, they could have won the national title. Kenny Meeks has called that out of bounds. We've discussed this.
Right.
BYU can absolutely make a Final Four, and I will explain why. Besides the scheduling trouble that they can't schedule games, I believe, on Saturday or Sunday or something like that.
They cannot schedule any games on Sunday.
Right, and there's some sort of
they have an algorithm with the selection committee that they are never going to be put into a Friday Sunday pod.
Yes, right, exactly, Friday Sunday pod. Right. The deal is that BYU shoots the three great. They're the number one 3-point shooting team in the country. They defend the three great, which is critical against Gonzaga. And Yoli Childs is a man inside. That's the deal. Now, I've talked about Childs. Sometimes he flakes out, okay, does his thing. If Yoli Childs is engaged and he doesn't get any stupid fouls, this team's going to be an impossible out. This team won when TJ Hawes, nobody likes him. They say he's 50 years old. The guy's nasty. They call him Mini Maravich in BYU. I get it. I want to go mini Maravich, fine. But the guy is that good. They shoot the three. Jake Toulson. We want BYU. We want Gonzaga. I don't want St. Mary's. Nobody cares. Enough. Get him out. Give me that game. I'll sign up for it right now. Make Gonzaga a 6.5-point favorite. Something like that. Give me that game. Be a fantastic game. Gonzaga will probably win. No problem. But BYU is battle tested. No one wants to play BYU. No one wants to play BYU in the tournament because you're going to say, oh, it's BYU. Stop. They're dangerous. They shoot the three. Child's inside. You can't slough off. Pull, three, fired up. Kids sleeping outside. 30-degree weather for 48 hours for the Gonzaga game. Look out. Give me Gonzaga versus BYU in the Final Four. I'm off. I'm out of my mind.
You're not out of your mind. Here's why BYU is dangerous. Because we always talk about these teams, and I'm just going to go very calm here because this is legit. We always talk about these teams and their team characteristics and things that really make them stand out and things that can like define their run or maybe they can imprint their will on a certain game or a certain matchup. And there's a couple of things here with BYU that are interesting. You mentioned all of them. I'll just try to bring it all back together. Number one, their 3-point shooting efficiency and the rate at which they shoot the 3-point shot. It is NBA-ish. They're slightly ahead of the curve. They are at a Villanova/Auburn last season type level of 3-point shooting team with both their accuracy and their attempt rate. So you have that. But then most of those teams would not have the inside complement that BYU owns with Yoli Childs. The Yoli Childs inside complement, now that he is healthy and playing at full speed, is a really interesting dynamic. Now, they also don't rely on one of those players being a 3-point shooter like Marcus Howard for Marquette or something of that nature where you can kind of key in on that. You mentioned Toulson, you mentioned Hawes. They have other shooters around that they surround Yoli Childs with. So they can play like, a 1-in-4 out situation, which they do often. You mentioned their defense on the 3-point line, and that's one of the things that I think is going to play a huge dividend for them because other teams are going to try to match what they do offensively. And if they can cover that defensively, then we're really talking about something here. So they don't have one characteristic that's really interesting. They have three. They have the 3-point shooting, accuracy, and attempt rate. They have the big man inside, and they also have a defensive philosophy that is a little bit more modern than the college game is operating in currently. So I really like all three of those things. I think it's interesting. I think it's worth paying attention to. And I think it's not crazy if you we talked about Seton Hall or some other teams that you pencil into the Final Four. Like, you could find a way and a pathway for BYU to get there as well. I don't think that's crazy.
Mark Pope has got to prove it to me. Listen, he's had a nice job. Don't get me wrong.
Correct.
You're going to beat Kelvin Sampson in a rematch in an Elite 8 or Sweet 16. I got to say it.
Yep.
But they have everything they need. Gonzaga is great. I mean, these are two really good teams. It's just good. I would love to see them in the WCC final. I think it'd be fantastic. Gonzaga would win. Right now, I'd say Gonzaga win by about 7-8. You know what I mean? But I think it'd be a really good game. It'd be a really, really good game.
I'm with you. Okay, Mike, let's go some quick thoughts, and then we'll get to our 6-pack of games. These are just super quickies. You tell me your true thoughts on them. Mike, Chris Jackson, our guy. his number 35.
Yes, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf. Yes.
Right? He was Marcus Howard before Marcus Howard was Marcus Howard. And Marcus Howard, who's grown into this 4 years. He's better. He's a 2-time All-America. He jacked threes before it was cool with the metrics crowd. He left early for the NBA before the floodgates opened and everybody left for the NBA. He was a 2-time Player of the Year in the SEC. He averaged 29 points per game for his 2-year Tiger career. He was just a breathtaking shot maker. And plus, Shaq said that he was really the best player on our team because if you remember, those two guys played together for a year. Thoughts on Chris Jackson and LSU and his jersey getting retired?
So well deserved. People aren't going to know him, but just fantastic. He suffered from Tourette's syndrome, folks.
Yep.
So he said like he learned to make it a positive. So like he couldn't leave the gym unless he made like 20 swishes in a row. I mean, think about that for a second. Okay. Think about how long it would take us to make 20 shots.
Yeah.
Right. Like they showed did a special 60-minute special. He was tying his shoe a million times. Really brought that to the forefront. Special player. Fantastic. I think he set a record for SEC freshman scoring, maybe even a national record, over 30 points per game as a freshman. The kid was legit. Absolutely legit. Tremendous player.
An underrated NBA career as well. Okay, let's
100%. Yep.
Let's go to a couple other senior days that had special moments, and this is why our sport is really special because there's moments like these that you can't replicate in any other sport or any other venue or any other sports consumption that you're going to have. Vermont has its senior day and was filled with unbelievable emotion. Mike, Josh Speidel found the court. He got to the box score with a hoop. The senior suffered a devastating brain injury right after signing with the Catamounts out of high school. They found a way to put a jersey on him, get him on the court, and get him in the box score. These are the moments that still keep our sport like emotionally attached to fans, the fan bases with those particular teams, but also just college basketball fans in general. There's no other sport that can create such a moment as this. Mike, what do you take away from Vermont? Like absolutely defining what a senior day should be.
Yeah, this is the content I'm here for. This is it. Case closed. Wonderful moment. Special moment. Not surprised it's Vermont also, by the way, doing things the right way.
Right.
Absolutely fantastic. Kudos to him, to everyone. It was a tearjerker moment. This is the stuff I'm here for. This is the stuff that matters.
And then, another one of those things, Mike, another one of those moments occurred at the Kennel when Gonzaga held its senior day. The story should have been, Rui returns home to be honored after his stellar Zags career. But that wasn't even a main attraction on the marquee. It was senior student manager Matt Graff who walked, and then we'll use the verb walked, out on the court to be honored because that was the important part. Coach Few claimed it was the first time he had witnessed his student manager walk in person. Graff does everything he can from his wheelchair for the Zags team as a student manager, and he went to PT and trained and worked his tail off just for that one moment to be applauded, to be witnessed, to be recognized by the Kennel crowd. Just another emotional moment that only college hoops can provide, right, Mike?
Don't ever tell me you can't do anything. I say this to my kids all the time. I don't want to hear you can't, because there's miracles that are happening every single day, and this is one of them. And it comes from hard work, and it comes from a positive mindset. It comes from, resiliency, which is something a lot of kids don't have right now because of technology. Wonderful, outstanding, just amazing. An amazing moment.
And I feel like when you have moments like that, whether it be the Vermont program, whether it be Gonzaga program, and you have somebody that works really closely with your team, and they show that type of resiliency and that type of grit, some of that has to bleed over to the everyday work that they're going to do as a team. And that's something as a coach, I don't know if you can replicate, or I don't know if you can, no matter how many times you're going to show a video or have a talk, like I think that authentic experience is really valuable and really a life-changing moment and a life-teaching moment. And that might be one of the most important things that all of those student athletes learn at their universities. So again, our sport creates these moments and these opportunities that just don't occur in everyday life. It's amazing. And I'm so happy that those moments were highlighted, in the realm of the sports atmosphere, because it's not really sport. It's just overcoming difficulty. And that was the most amazing part.
Yeah, sports is a microcosm of life. That's why people go to the movies. That's why they like sports.
Yeah.
There's a beginning, there's an end, and there's ups and downs. And these are moments that connect real life to what our out is, to what our, sort of escape is.
Yeah.
And you connect the real to the escape, and you have just life-changing moments, which is awesome. Wonderful.
Yeah. All right, let's escape on our six-pack of games. Mike, give me your 2 cents on the six-pack here. Tell me which way you're leaning, listeners. We hope you enjoy the weekend. We hope that you enjoyed the extended podcast here. Mike and I had a ton of things to talk about, as every college basketball podcast will have to talk about during March. So thanks for hanging with us. We hope this takes care of multiple commutes for you. All right, Mike, rematch time. UNC at number 12, Duke. We always tune into this game. The first one was an absolute classic, totally lived up to the hype. Is there any chance that this game could possibly duplicate that and maybe even outdo it? Or is this going to be a Duke win after Duke being pretty grumpy after dropping a couple of losses?
Is it going to be Duke? Is it going to be UNC? There's only one bet to make here, Gus. And what is it?
It's got to be the over, right?
It's got to be the over.
It's got to be, right?
Exactly. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I mean, Duke, who knows? UNC's been gritty lately. It's a rivalry. Take the over. That's the answer.
All right, very good. Enjoy all those points. Let's hope it's 90-90 with the 2 minutes to go. That's awesome. All right, Mike, number 24 Whiskey is going to be at Indiana. This is like a little bubblicious. And I'll tell you what, this Wisconsin team is one of the teams that we talked about previously, playing with two bigs, with Reavers and Potters playing inside. They're kind of interesting. After losing Kobe King, you thought that would be like a big subtraction because that was a skilled wing player that they lost. That was part of their rotation. But they've not lost a step. And in fact, they've climbed their way back into the top of the Big Ten. So, Mike, number 24 Whiskey at Indiana. What do we got here?
It's a frisky game. It's right now, the line, if you had to pick it, is going to be Indiana -2, -1. Indiana's been great at home. They beat Northwestern home. They beat Ohio State at home. They beat Michigan State at home. They lost Maryland at home last second shot. I don't count that. Purdue, doing weird Purdue things, beat them at home. And then they beat Iowa. They beat Penn State at home. They beat Minnesota at home and covered. I would lean Indiana. I think that Archie Miller's job is no one's talking about how great a job he's doing. Trace Jackson Davis is a little banged up. That could swing me. I just saw a report on Twitter while we were recording here. But again, if you go to a random college basketball fan and you ask them to name multiple players in Indiana, they can't do it. You want to say Devontae Green, Rob Finney, Justin Smith. I mean, come on, guys.
Right.
I mean, the job that he's doing is great. Now, he's got to recruit. I mean, that's the other half. You got to recruit some better players. Right. But Archie Miller's done a great job. Hard for me to get away from Indiana here, provided that Trace Jackson Davis is totally healthy.
I'm going to go the other way. I think I like Wisconsin. I like
that's fair.
I like the bigs here. I think they're playing unbelievably well.
They're playing great.
I think they got something a little rolling here. And I know we've been on Greg Garr about how he's done things, but I think they might be trending in the right direction. I think we might need to hop on that train and we'll stay inside.
Since they lost Kobe King, right? They've been great.
Yeah. We'll stay inside the Big Ten. How about Bubblicious? It's very bubble bathy here. Rutgers at Purdue. We've talked about Purdue being so weird. Like, is this just going to be like another place where Rutgers drops a game and Purdue blows somebody out on the road? I feel like this is exactly where this game is headed, especially after Rutgers garnering that big win over Maryland at home.
Yeah, probably. I think Purdue stinks. I'm a Travion Williams fan. I'm not a Purdue. I mean, I guess they're 16-14, 9-10.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. We're going to put them in over one of the teams in the SoCon. I mean, I get it, but I've told this before. If you're in the big power school, conferences, you're going to get a couple wins by default. They own Iowa, clearly. I think that's because, in my opinion, Travion Williams really locks down Garza. Garza has to work, but if Garza's going against those thin athletic bigs, he just backs him in. Travion Williams, you cannot back him in. So I think Travion Williams is actually a little bit of a contain for the potential player of the year, and that's what triggers it. And then they're surrounded by, I'm good because my mom says I'm good, guys. But I listen, I think it's Purdue at home. They've been hot. Stefanovic hit the 3 to start the game. Then I should have just walked to the window on the in-game on that one because they pounded them. I have no idea. I love Rutgers. Would love to see them get a road win, but they're coming off that huge win at home. This is odd. Purdue's going to be on fire. Yeah, I'd lean Purdue.
I'd lean Purdue, too. That's probably going to be like some sort of like senior game as well, so you got to throw that in there as well.
Which, by the way, Gus has been frisky. I've been tracking this because I have no life.
No, I'm with you. I think I know where you're going to go here.
Yeah, like last year, we argued over this, and you said senior nights are frisky.
They are.
And last year they weren't. By and large, I would say 70%, rough estimate there, went to the home team. This year, yet again, Gus says something that I disagree with, that it comes true yet again. This year, I've been tracking it. It's total opposite.
Right.
Here's another one tonight. I was telling everybody today, take Villanova tonight at Seton Hall.
No.
Because senior nights are frisky.
Yes.
And they did. And they won again.
Right.
Yes, this year, and maybe you're right, because I'm just going year by year. Maybe last year was the anomaly. Senior nights have been frisky for the underdog of the road team, 100%.
Okay, so speaking of that, let's go to Seton Hall, who just had their senior night. Just mentioned them at number 11, Creighton. Both of these teams are like teams that you could find a way that could get to the Final Four. That's not totally crazy. So what are we talking here in the Big East that is the grind? Do we have Seton Hall coming off a loss? They're going to drop back-to-back games? I mean, this is serious here for Creighton and Seton Hall. What do we got? Are we taking the home team? Are we? What do we got? Blue Jays, Pirates?
Yeah, it's close because Seton Hall beat Creighton at home 87-82.
Yep.
I'm sorry, Creighton beat Seton Hall at home 87-82. So Seton Hall's going to want to get him back. The loss tonight was tough. They defend the three well. Creighton, by the way, minus 11 was the easiest pick of the night over Georgetown. I made it my best bet for Action Network. Minus 11, no McClung, no Yurt 7. Come on, no problem.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm probably going Seton Hall here. I'm staying with the theme that I just said, which is senior nights tend to be frisky.
Yep.
You're going to give me the points. Seton Hall has been tough. They won on the road at Marquette. Creighton had a pretty easy win. It's going to be senior night for them. I don't think I have a lot of seniors, to be honest with you, but I don't know. I'd probably go Seton Hall here, depending on the line.
I would go Seton Hall here as well, and I would go Seton Hall here because of the emotion that was invested in this season. They start 4 seniors. All 4 of those seniors were emotionally invested in that Villanova game. That emotion is now going to be in a different area and be refocused, and I think that they're going to now say, like, okay, let's go win a Big East tournament title. And let's go make some noise in March Madness. And I think now that senior day is behind them, those 4 seniors, those 3 seniors that Seton Hall starts, they're going to be okay and things are going to move forward. All right, Mike, we got to talk a little Ivy. Let's go Yale at Harvard. This is huge. It's for first place. Both teams playing well. What do you feel for the Ivy? Yale at Harvard.
Gus, Yale can't beat Harvard. We've been through this a couple weeks ago. Yale doesn't beat Harvard. I don't want to hear about it. We're probably going to have Bryce Aiken do a Willis Reed or something like that. Yale can't beat Harvard. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear about it anymore. Yale, show up. You're king of little people. I don't want to hear about it anymore. You can't beat Harvard. I don't want to hear it. I'm done.
Guess what? I like Yale here.
Well, you're better locked in than me. So,
right,
folks, if you're going to make a wager, listen to what Gus is about to tell you.
Okay.
Because obviously I have take lock. I mean, you can tell by my voice that this is not an impressive opinion. Go ahead.
Listen, unless Bryce Aiken comes back, I think we have to lean Yale here. They're going to have the 2 best players on the court. As hard as Harvard plays and as efficient as they are at home, I really think if you're going to lean one way or the other here, you're going to go with the 2 best players on the court with Brunner and Jacobson. I think that's the way to roll here. And plus you have Swain that can make a couple threes from the outside. This game went down to the wire, when it was at Yale. I think it's going to go down to the wire again.
Yale won at Clemson. Yeah.
And I think Yale takes this one, and I think that they're going to win on the road here. That I know I'm off my Harvard train here. I'm off my rocker, but that's where I'm at here. And Mike, let's go to number 6, Kentucky. They're going to go to Florida. They're going to be coming off that loss to Tennessee. They're going to be annoyed that Fulkerson lit them up. Florida could probably use a get-right win here. Do you feel like that Kentucky is going to be in trouble on the road here? Or are you going to reflect back upon what you said before, that Kentucky actually shoots it a little bit better on the road and that Florida might be in a little bit of trouble if they're going to try to defend the Wildcats?
Oh, I think we all know that Mike White will come up with a great game plan here, so I love Florida. Did you buy that? Did it sound real? I tried to make it real. No,
that sounded nothing. There's nothing about that sounded authentic.
I'll take Kentucky with Mike White will slow it down. Nebhart's actually getting in a rhythm now, but let's slow it down. Let's not rush anything. But by the way, did you hear Blackshear the other day?
No.
Blackshear they lose the game of Tennessee, I think it was, or something like that. And he's like, we haven't figured out how to put a full 40 minutes together yet.
You haven't figured it out yet, huh, big guy?
I'm sorry? I'm sorry, you haven't figured it out yet? was like, what are you waiting for, big guy? Sorry, but all right.
He might be waiting for game 37. I don't know what he's waiting for.
So whatever. I'll take Cal. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm with you on that as well. I couldn't back that enough. And then we'll go one bonus. So we'll go maybe a sidecar here. Maybe this is like your shot of Bushmills or something. But we'll go number 10 Louisville at number 22 UVA. Mike, do you feel like Louisville has lost a little luster, and then maybe UVA is kind of finding their groove here? Do you feel like we should take the under? What are you feeling with this ACC matchup of two top 25 teams and teams that are, kind of interesting? Because Louisville, did hold the top spot earlier this year, and UVA was like unranked for a lot of the season, and they're the national champs. So what do you feel like with two of these teams that have held the number one spot within the last, 12 months?
Yeah, Louisville beat Virginia 80-73 at home. In that game, you had Virginia make 11 threes. They're going to have to do that again. Louisville was played real well. Wara had a big game, 22 points. I don't think he repeats that. I think Louisville's soft. I've been saying it all year. I'll take Virginia at home. It depends on the line. I'm kind of hit back and forth on this one because Virginia did escape tonight at Miami. I would take Virginia. I think Louisville's soft. I'm not putting Louisville in the Final Four. It's not happened this year. Not to say Chris Mack hasn't done a great job, but I'm just not buying it with Wara and Enoch is Dwayne Sutton is Lauren Kimball. I don't want I can't get on board the Louisville train, so by default I'll take Virginia. But I do not have a strong lean here, Gus. Full disclosure.
Okay, I'm going to go stronger lean. I'm going to take Virginia here. I think they got some things figured out. I think Kihei Clark's playing at a high level. I mean, Jay Huff had the first 17 points.
Yeah, it's a big block against Duke, Gus. He traveled a long way to get that block to end that game. That was a big block by Huff.
Oh, he had 10 big blocks. I mean, he was amazing. You mentioned the Miami game. He had the first 17 points. So obviously he's turning a corner, and we're all aboard the J Huff bandwagon, the J Huff train. Mike, I think that's all we got. I mean, I think we've emptied the quiver and emptied the arsenal. I think that's all we got for this particular podcast. Do you have anything else for the listeners out there?
I got 23 seconds left to second half of Eastern Illinois, Jacksonville State. By the way, Gus, 27-22 at the half. There's an under. Thank you very much.
Cash that. Head to the window. Get to the window.
To the window. If these two picks get to the window, I'm 18-8 tonight. Get to the window.
Please
Eastern
get to
Illinois.
The window. All right, listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. If you really like what you're listening to, don't forget to give a kind review on your podcast consumption vehicle of choice. And please enjoy all of the March Madness that you have upcoming. And thanks for letting us keep you company on a couple of commutes back and forth, to and fro. And we will catch up with you before you know it with something else goody. Cheers, cilantro, gratulati, everybody.
Jordan Skipper Brown is off to a great start.
I'm addicted to the appetite. It's a